I stood in the lawyer's office, my thrift shop sweater scratching at my skin, feeling like a small bird trapped among predators. My grandmother, well, she had just dropped a life-altering bomb on me. To inherit her fortune, I had to live alone in her deserted upstate New York mansion for 30 days, with nothing but the clothes I wore. No phone. No money. No way to reach the outside world. Across from me, my Aunt Claire and her husband Ethan sat in their tailored suits, gleaming like armor, eyes sharp with a hunger that could swallow anyone whole. I thought my grandmother was testing me, measuring my resilience against her iron will. Little did I know, her crumbling estate hid a secret that would shake everything I thought I knew about her and myself. I'd only visited Willow Creek Manor once as a child, a hazy memory of climbing groaning stairs and inhaling the scent of lavender in her garden. My grandmother wasn't the cuddly type. She was a real estate powerhouse, a woman who could hush a room full of executives with a single glare. I loved her, but it was the kind of love reserved for mountains, distant, awe-inspiring, and a little terrifying. To her, I was a disappointment. Lily, the quiet graphic designer who preferred drawing wildflowers to chasing corner offices, drowning in freelance work and student loans. So when the lawyer called me to the will reading, I expected a polite nod or a dusty old book from her collection. Not this. The office smelled of polished wood and old money. Claire and Ethan sat like royalty, their faces masks of grief, their eyes predatory. The lawyer, a man who looked born to clutch a fountain pen, droned through minor bequests, cash to charities, paintings to museums, before reaching the main prize. To my granddaughter, Lily, he read, voice dry as parchment, I leave the entirety of my estate. The room went still. My heart froze. Claire's manicured nails dug into her chair, Ethan's jaw twitched. I stared at the lawyer, waiting for the punchline. There is one condition, he continued, peering over his glasses. Lily must live alone in Willow Creek Manor for 30 consecutive days. She must arrive with no possessions, no money, no communication devices, and survive entirely on what the property provides. Claire's smug smile curled her lips. Ethan leaned back, arms folded, already celebrating. Your aunt and her husband will monitor your progress weekly, the lawyer added. Fail to comply, and the estate reverts to them. It hit me like icy water. This wasn't a gift, it was a test, a final challenge from a grandmother who thought I lacked the strength to endure. Claire and Ethan glowed with anticipation, already dreaming of the fortune they'd claim. The drive to Willow Creek Manor twisted through dense, foggy forests. Hours later, the lawyer left me at the end of a gravel driveway. The iron gates groaned shut behind me like prison doors. The mansion loomed ahead, a gothic skeleton of its former grandeur. Windows boarded, walls strangled by ivy, gardens overgrown with thorns. Rain fell sharp and cold as I trudged to the front door. My grandmother had built an empire from nothing. Now, she had thrown me into this ruin to prove my worth, or so I thought. The oak door groaned as I pushed it open, releasing a stale gust smelling of dust and forgotten years. Inside, the manor felt like a tomb. The grand foyer, once polished, was blanketed in grey dust. The chandelier draped in cobwebs like mourning veils. My sneakers left the only sign of life. I shivered not just from the cold seeping through the walls, but from the weight of what I had undertaken. No electricity. No running water. No food. Just me, alone in a house that seemed to watch me. The first day was survival. I scoured the kitchen, hoping to find something edible, but found only cracked plates and a rusted tin of tea. The taps coughed up brown sludge before drying up completely. In a dusty linen closet, I discovered threadbare blankets, barely enough to stop the chill rising from the floorboards. As the sun sank, the house grew darker, more menacing. I lit a stub of candle, its trembling flame mirroring my own resolve. By nightfall, I curled on a sagging couch, wrapped in a tattered curtain pulled from a window, listening as the house came alive. The wind screamed through the eaves like a wounded whale, the walls groaning, and something skittered just out of sight. I hoped it would just be mice, but my mind conjured far worse. My stomach twisted in knots, hunger sharpening the edge of my fear. I imagined Claire and Ethan, probably lounging in their penthouse with wine, laughing at the thought of me surviving a single night. They weren't wrong. I'd never been the resilient type. Back in the city, I scraped by on instant noodles and late-night design gigs, always one missed payment away from disaster. This was different. This was survival, and I wasn't built for it. Sleep barely touched me. I jerked awake at every creak, every whisper, haunted by my grandmother's cold, calculating stare. She had always seen me as fragile, a dreamer destined to fail in her cutthroat world. This test felt like her final proof, from beyond the grave, that I would crumble. By morning, I was ready to quit. I would return to the city if I had to. Pride be damned. But sunrise spilled gold through the grimy windows, softening the house's harsh edges. It seemed tired, waiting for someone to care. Driven by hunger and stubbornness, I searched again with purpose. In the pantry, behind a pile of empty jars, I found a single perfect mason jar of peaches glowing amber in the morning light. Beside it lay a rusty can opener, as if placed just for me. My hands shook as I pried it open, the lid popped with a satisfying hiss. I sank to the cold floor, tasting the sweet, syrupy fruit that carried summers long gone. It wasn't just food, it was a lifeline. My grandmother, meticulous as ever, had left this intentionally. That jar changed everything. I wasn't merely surviving anymore, I was searching. Something she wanted me to find. The house wasn't punishment, it was a puzzle, and I'd just discovered the first piece. The peaches gave me strength, but doubt still gnawed at my mind. What exactly was I looking for? Why had my grandmother, a woman who barely acknowledged me in life, chosen me? I explored Willow Creek Manor room by room, not as a desperate scavenger, but as someone chasing an unknown truth. The house was full of contradictions: grand ballrooms with peeling wallpaper, dining rooms set for feasts that never happened. Every corner whispered her life, but I needed more than echoes. I learned the house's rhythms. I found wild blackberries in the overgrown garden, tart but edible, and taught myself to boil water over a fire in the old hearth. My hands blistered chopping kindling, my body ached from sleeping on the floor, yet a strange pride blossomed. I was surviving, maybe even thriving, in a way I never had in the city. Loneliness, though, remained crushing. At night, the house's creaks, whispers, and skitters felt accusatory, reminding me I was utterly alone. One afternoon, I dared the study, a room I'd avoided because it exuded her presence, sharp, imposing, untouchable. The desk overflowed with ledgers, yet one wall held books that didn't belong: poetry, novels, gardening guides. A crack in her armor. I ran my fingers along the spines, and a worn wildflower guide fell. Too light. Not a book, it was a hollow box. Inside, faded velvet cradled nothing. Sliding it back, my fingers found a hidden latch. A soft click, and the bookshelf swung open, revealing a narrow room scented with ink and old paper. On a small wooden desk lay a single leather journal, worn but elegant. My breath caught at the familiar handwriting, not the bold tycoon scrawl I knew, but the careful, hopeful words of a girl. The first entry, dated when I was 16, began, "I will escape this small town. Numbers are my talent. My dreams are bigger than these fields. Somehow, I will make it." I sank to the floor, reading until fading light stole the words. This wasn't the fearsome grandmother I'd known. This was a girl with fire, fighting for a life she could barely imagine. The journal ended with a cryptic note about the stars above the cradle, a clue. She wasn't testing survival, she was guiding me to her story, and I intended to follow. Claire and Ethan's first weekly visit hit like a storm. Claire's heels clicked sharply, Ethan clutched a clipboard like a weapon. "Still hanging on, Lily?" Claire's voice dripped with pity. "You don't have to do this." I stood by the fire I had built, soot smudging my hands, and smiled. "I'm fine," I said, steady. Their smirks faltered. They didn't know about the journal, the peaches, the spark growing inside me. They thought I was breaking. They had no idea I was building something new. The journals became my obsession. Each led to the next, a trail of secrets she had hidden for me. The second, tucked under blankets in the nursery, told of a love lost, a painter stolen by family wealth and expectations. The third, hidden behind a fireplace brick, chronicled her rise to power. Each page revealed another brick in the walls she built around her broken heart. I saw her not as a giant, but as a woman who had battled, loved, and mourned. And in her words, I recognized my own doubts, my own dreams. I grew stronger, too. I learned to gather rainwater in old buckets to cook the mushrooms I found over the fire. My hands, once soft from sketching, had become rough, capable. The house, once a frightening labyrinth, now felt like an ally, its secrets unfolding like a carefully drawn map. Claire and Ethan's visits grew sharper, their tones laced with venom. "You're wasting your time," Ethan barked on the third visit, his eyes scanning the dusty parlor for proof of my failure. "This house will break you." I only smiled, clutching the latest journal. They could never understand. The final journal, hidden in a locked attic chest, revealed the last clue, a safe spot near the hearth. I spent hours examining the main fireplace, my fingers tracing every stone until one shifted, revealing a small safe. Inside lay a folded document, the true will, and a sealed envelope with my name in my grandmother's elegant script. My heart raced. This was it, the key to everything. The day of Claire and Ethan's final visit arrived. Their car crunched up the driveway like predators closing in. I stood in the foyer, journals stacked on the table, the will in my hands. Claire's smile was sharp, Ethan's clipboard ready to declare defeat. "Lily, darling," Claire purred, "you've come this far. It'd be a shame to lose everything now." I met their eyes, calm but unyielding. "The test is over. You need to see this." I led them to the parlor, where the firelight flickered over the journals. "Did you know," I said to Ethan, "that my grandmother wrote about you breaking her favorite teacup as a child? She said you were kind, but afraid to take responsibility." His face turned pale, clipboard trembling. "And Claire," I continued, turning to her, "she wrote about you borrowing her necklace for parties, how you loved the sparkle more than the meaning behind it." Claire's eyes widened, her confidence faltering. "This house isn't empty," I said, my voice low and heavy. "It's full of her story." The test wasn't about surviving, it was about understanding her. I held up the true will. Claire grabbed it, hands shaking as she read. Her expression crumbled. "The will named me heir, but with one condition: a portion of the estate would fund the Willow Creek Foundation, a charity for the arts and local history, with me as chairwoman. Claire and Ethan could claim their share, but only if they worked under me for 5 years. I opened the envelope and read my grandmother's final letter aloud. "My dearest Lily, you found my story, now write your own. I wasn't a perfect mother, but I know you will be a remarkable leader. Teach them what I could not." Claire's eyes glistened, Ethan lowered his head. They weren't just defeated, they were laid bare. Their greed exposed by a woman who had seen through them, even in death. I felt a surge of pride, not just for winning, but for carrying her legacy forward. A year later, I sat at the head of a polished table in Willow Creek Manor's restored library, now the Foundation's headquarters. Sunlight streamed through the windows, warming the room where I had once shivered in darkness. The air hummed with quiet focus as my team discussed grants for local artists and preservation projects. Claire and Ethan sat across from me, not enemies, but colleagues, changed, humbled, and capable. Ethan, once bitter and chasing shadows, now thrived in fundraising, securing donors with unexpected passion. Claire, once obsessed with status, poured herself into charity events, her charm drawing crowds and support. None of us were perfect, but we were trying. For the first time, we felt like a family, not a battlefield. I often remembered my grandmother's letter, her words guiding me. She hadn't just left me her fortune, she had given me a mission: to heal what she could not. The journals, now safely archived, became the Foundation's heart, inspiring exhibits about her life and local history. I had grown, too. The girl who doubted herself was gone, replaced by a woman who could build fires, solve puzzles, and lead with compassion. The house, once a ruin, was alive again, its halls filled with purpose. My grandmother had left me more than a story, she left me a way to rewrite ours. I looked at Claire and Ethan, their faces softer, and felt quiet gratitude. Together, we were building not just a legacy, but a family, one step at a time. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, please like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a story that dives deep into the heart. Here's to finding the hidden truths in our own lives. See you in the next one.